All right, everyone. Oakland has now become the second U.S. city to legalize psilocybin mushrooms, technically decriminalization, a la Denver. Denver did it first. I think that was a couple of months ago. I support this. The drug war needs to end. If you've ever used or know anything about psilocybin, it should not be on the scheduling level it's on because it's specifically because it's not addictive and it does have some established, scientifically established medical benefits. I think that what we should do is this. I think that all drugs, including the hard ones, should be totally decriminalized. That is, there simply should not be laws regarding them. There should be no government intervention into these things whatsoever. I don't care, if somebody is selling these things, then normal commercial laws with regards to the safety of the consumer and things of that nature apply through the FDA, and that's basically all you need. States would say, okay, you have to be 21 to buy your heroin or something. What you can do then is if someone's addicted, you get them treatment. This would also open the way for new scientific experimentation into ways to fight addiction. Ironically, one of the most well-regarded ways to fight addiction is with other drugs. Like people, in order to fight opiate addiction, they take the kratom, I believe. I might be mispronouncing that. And on its own, it is a drug, and it does have some addiction potential, but there have been an overwhelming number of cases of people who have tried it, and it actually worked to get them off of harder substances. And so they're using a softer substance, or they've gone sober because they use that to wean themselves off. Iboga is used in addiction treatment by some people. There's Iboga tourism to Africa. Ayahuasca in South America certainly functions in a similar method. These very strong hallucinogenics that affect people sometimes for several days at a time. They're administered in a ritual format. The person sort of goes inside themselves. It's sort of like self-hypnotherapy. And it has a success rate that's higher than standard treatment in some cases. I'm not seeing exactly how the U.S. government how the DEA, I believe, which administers drug scheduling, can possibly justify its own scheduling system. At the very least, most of these substances should not be, some of the legal pharmaceuticals are far more dangerous, far more addictive, and far more likely to kill you by overdose than some of the stuff you get off the street. As far as psilocybin goes, the truth about it is this. It actually has a reverse addiction potential. You can't get addicted, you can get habituated to using any psychedelic or any mind-altering substance, just like you can get habituated to anything else in your life. You can get habituated to sleeping around. You can get habituated to touching every corner of your room before you go to bed. You can get habituated to pretty much anything. It doesn't have to be something consumable. But you can't get physically addicted to psilocybin. There's no addiction potential. So there's one. The harm level of psilocybin. How many cases of actual overdoses on psilocybin are there? Not very many. Very, very small number. It's possible. It's just the problem is you'd have to get a fairly large amount of high-grade mushrooms in order to get to that level. You're more likely to have a spaz out and kill yourself on psilocybin than to physically succumb to it. It's sort of like with marijuana. Yes, there are a handful of cases someone smokes a lot of really high-grade pot. They're being a dumbass, or they're smoking they're dabbing, purified liquid or something, and then they throw themselves out a window or shoot themselves, or they have some latent psychotic disorder and they have a total breakdown and end up in the nut ward for a month. That's possible. But is it often that happens compared to the number of users, number one, and certainly compared to a lot of other substances, some of which are legal? No. You are much more likely to get hit by a drunk driver than you are to get hit by one that's smoking weed or doing psychedelics or on coke. That's simply the way that it is. So it shouldn't be scheduled as high. Psilocybin is one of the least dangerous of the psychotropic substances. It's one of the less harmful, less addictive substances. Well, non-addictive, but we'll just use that general use term. The drug scheduling, therefore, for it makes no sense. Now, of course, it's still federally illegal. The states still consider it illegal. But when you have a couple of fairly large metro areas, Oakland and Denver, making it decriminalized, it's going to be promulgated in these locations. Eventually, the states will legalize it. Eventually, this will be the next wave of the reduction of the drug war. Hopefully, will be psilocybin and other psychedelics. Why stop at psilocybin? If you're willing to let people hallucinate because they ate mushrooms, why can't you let them hallucinate because they ate cactus? There's not that measurable a difference between psilocybin and mescaline anyway. So you should add mescaline. What about LSD? I understand that it's a processed substance. Requires a bit more of a refined situation to actually create LSD than to grow a bunch of mushrooms in a closet. The effects are similar. Yeah, it'd be easier to overdose on LSD and die if you had, millions of dollars to buy the actual stuff you'd need. There was one case, I think, didn't somebody soak their shirt in acid and try to walk through, airport security, basically drenched and just totally flipped out and died? I think at some point someone who was making LSD fell into a bathtub full of it and died, if I remember correctly. I can imagine with that many doses, especially if you swallowed any, you'd be blasted within seconds, and minutes later you'd probably die of a massive heart attack. You can definitely you can overdose on pretty much any substance. It's just a matter of how much would you need. You're going to need a lot of money to get enough psilocybin to overdose. I can't remember the actual dose of psilocin that you would need, but if you're going regular cubensis or something like that, I'm not talking the highest grade, lab-grown azaresins clones or something like that. I'm talking like the average psilocybin. Can your stomach hold enough? I saw a video once of some dude, and he was eating mushrooms, and he was just sitting there grinning at his camera and shit. I actually tried to make a recording. The one time I used psilocybin many, many years ago, I tried to make a recording of it, and I couldn't because I couldn't focus long enough. So, when I came to the next day, I checked the videos I had made. I had made like 20 or 30, like 5 to 10 second long recordings of me just staring into the camera with a blank look on my face. My pupils, hugely dilated and stuff. It wasn't very fun. I mean, there are other substances I definitely preferred over psilocybin, but it shouldn't be illegal. People should not be facing getting thrown in a jail cell for a fucking mushroom. It's not necessary. If there's a DUI, public intoxication, aggravated assault, if something else is happening that's specifically victimizing people, look at it as an aggravating factor. That way, hopefully, the morons of society, they will be in a jail cell because they're dumb enough to take psilocybin and go for a drive or something. Okay, take them off the streets. Go ahead, with the blessing of every libertarian, by the way. But if they're sitting there in their room, spacing out, they shouldn't have to worry about the cops breaking down their door because they grew some mushrooms in a closet. It's just a waste of time. It's a waste of police resources too. The problem is they break into Harold the Happy Hippie's house. Harold the Happy Hippie might be packing heat. He might think that someone's coming to steal his weed. He opens fire, kills 3 people. Harold's dead. Some cops are dead. Their children are crying. Why? Because he was growing a pot plant. Who fucking cares if he gets high? I don't care how wasted he gets. I don't care if he does overdose. Not my fucking problem, to tell the truth. Sad as though they may sound. Believe it or not, it's not society's problem when somebody else makes dumb decisions unless they're being a menace to society. Specifically victimizing an individual or their property rights, something like that. Victimizing them. That's when there's a crime. Some 15-year-old kid taking mushrooms or smoking a joint is not victimizing me. Not unless they get behind the wheel of a car or they punch me in the back of the head because they think I've turned into a dragon. That's about all. Peace out.